Hi, kindergartners. Welcome to a new writing lesson. So we have been working on our persuasive writing and thinking about a problem in the world and some reasons why it's a problem. And now, to go along with what we've been learning, because remember I told you last time that it's important to think about who should be reading your story. So if I'm writing a story about recycling and I really want people to recycle more, I need to think about who I should be telling this to. And if it's a problem in my neighborhood, I might want my neighbors, the people who live right next to me, to read it so that they would understand why they should recycle too. So for today, we are going to be learning that writers write letters that reach their readers. So one way that we could ask someone to be really interested in what we're trying to do is to write them a letter. And I want to show you the new paper that we can use when we write a letter. And so it looks like this. So it's kind of like our writing how-to books. So in this circle, you can draw your picture. So this is still your picture bubble. But then right here on this little line on the top, you're going to write the date. So you would say, let's see, today would be 5/11, or you could say May 1/1, May 11th. And then here, you would write who it's to. So you could say, dear, D-E-A-R, neighbors, dear neighbors. So this is going to be who it's to. And then you start writing what you want them to know. So it's the same down here as our how-to book, where you're still going to be writing on these lines. The only thing that's new is a smaller bubble for our pictures, and then a small line for the date, and then an extra line here to write who it's to. Dear, and then whoever you want to write it to. And then this is what the additional pages of our letter could look like. So if you need more space on your letters, you would add this page, and it just continues with the lines for your writing. And then the bubble is still for your pictures. Okay? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I want you guys to know that I want to give you a tip for how to write your letters to be powerful. So we're going to be writing letters, but we want to know how we can make them powerful. So when you're writing a letter, it helps to imagine the person is standing right next to you. And then you almost talk to them, only you are talking to the page. So if I'm writing my letter, I want to imagine that I'm talking to the person. So if I'm writing my story about recycling and I say, today is May 11th, dear neighbors, I want you to know how important recycling is. Did you know that if you don't recycle, it could end up in the ocean and hurt some of our animals? So that's all I'm going to write in my letter for now, but do you see how it seems like I'm talking to someone? So I said, did you know? So it seems like I'm talking to someone. So that's what we need to do, in our letter. We want to make sure that we're talking to someone. And I want to remind you of our checklist on how we write to make things better, where we first see a problem, then we think about why it's a problem, and then we write about it, and then remember we added the who to our lesson. So who should I be writing this problem and reasons why it's a problem to? Who should I be writing to? And then when you think of who you should be writing to, then you write them a letter about, and it has to be very powerful. Make sure that you're talking to the person. And so then we want to make sure that we are going to look at a letter. So I'm going to show you how to write a letter, and you want to use it as a mentor text for your letter. And it'll help you write a really powerful letter to the person, the who, that you thought of when you were doing your writing, okay? So first, I said that I wanted to write my persuasive writing about recycling. And then I said, I think the who for my story is going to be my neighbors. So now I think I should write my neighbors a letter. So first, I'm going to write the date, and it's May 11th. And Miss Shea is just writing this on normal paper, but you can make sure to print out that paper, or you can make it on your own. So you can take a blank piece of paper. Actually, good idea. I'm going to take a blank piece of paper, and I'm going to make it. So I'm going to make a bubble at the top that's a little bit smaller than our normal ones. So here's my bubble for my picture. And then I have to make sure I draw the little line for the date, and then another line for who it's to. So this is I'm going to say dear, and then a bunch of lines under that for where I'm going to write my letter to them. So you can make the paper on your own if you are not able to print it out. So see, I made it, and I'm going to write the date, May 11th. See, I wrote the date. And now I want to write my letter to my neighbors. So I'm going to say, dear neighbors. Dear neighbors. And then I can draw a picture with recycling. So I'm going to do those little arrows that you see on recycling all the time. Let me show you when I'm done drawing them. Just so my neighbor knows, maybe from the picture, what the letter is going to be about. See, there's a recycling symbol. So if I want to write a letter to my neighbors about why recycling and the problem of not recycling enough is a problem, I need to think about what I need to say to them. And I think some of my reasons for why it's a problem should go into my letter. So I can say, dear neighbors, if we don't recycle the garbage can get into the ocean and hurt animals. What's another reason why recycling is a problem, or not recycling enough? If also, I can say also, when we recycle, our planet is cleaner. I like living on a clean planet, and I think they would too. So here's part of my letter. I'm not done yet, but I think this is a good start. So up here I have my picture, and then on here I have the date, and then who it's to, dear neighbors. And then I start writing my letter in the lines. And it says, if we don't recycle, the garbage can get into the ocean and hurt animals. Also, when we recycle, our planet is cleaner. Does that sound convincing? I think that if someone read this to me or sent it to me, I would really want to start making sure I'm recycling everything in my house. So I think that that's a good start with a powerful letter to my neighbors. And then I also want to give an example in my letter. So it's important to give an example of why, if we don't recycle, it's a problem. And I know one example that I think could be really important to share, and it's that when you get a pack of sodas or bottles and they have the plastic around it that has a bunch of little holes in it, if we don't recycle those sometimes end up in the ocean and around the neck of some turtles. And that could be really frustrating. So I'm going to use that as an example in my letter. I'm going to say, sometimes our plastic gets stuck around the neck of sea turtles. I think that's a really good example. And then I think that it's also important to be really convincing in our letter. So if I just said recycling is important because it's important, do you think that they would really understand why it's important and why they should be recycling? I don't think so. So it's important that we have to be very convincing. And I want to show you our new checklist that says we, as writers, can be really convincing. And I'm going to cover up just one of them for now. And so we are going to be learning to tell our opinion. So we already learned that our opinion is how we feel about something. So when we tell our opinion in our letter, it's going to say, I think recycling is important because, or I think that staying inside during the virus is important because. So you want to make sure you tell them your opinion on the problem. Then tell a little story. Do you have a story that you know that relates to the problem that you're talking about? I could say, one time I did a report, so I studied the effects, like what happens to animals in the ocean if we don't recycle. And it's really sad. And so I have a story about what I learned from doing all of that research. So I learned about different types of things that we have in our house, how harmful they can be if we don't recycle. So I can tell a little story about that. And then I want to give lots of reasons. Give lots of reasons. And then I need to give a fix-it idea. So when I'm telling all of these people how important it is to recycle and why if they don't recycle that it's a problem, I need to give them a way that I think we could fix it. Because if I just tell them all the problems, they're going to say, well, yeah, I agree with you, but what do we do? So we need to give them an idea. So I could say, make sure when you are throwing things away that you look at the container for this symbol. If it has this symbol on it, throw it in the recycling. That's a fix-it idea. If I was writing a story about the virus, I could say, one way we can fix this is by wearing a mask. Please wear a mask. And then we want to make sure that we're polite. Be polite in your letter. We want to make sure that we are getting our point across and that people understand why the problem is important, but we want to be nice about it. We don't want to come off kind of rude. We want to say, this is important and I think it affects you and me. And I think once we let people know that it affects them too, they're going to understand that it's important, okay? So on here, I could give my fix-it idea and I could say, if you see this symbol on containers, throw them in recycling. So let's make sure. I look at my checklist and I say, did I tell my opinion? I think so. Did I tell a little story? I'm going to add one. Did I give lots of reasons? I did. And I gave it a fix-it idea just now. And I think I was very polite. So you want to make sure you go through the checklist when you're writing your letter, okay? And again, this is what your letter is going to look like. It's okay if you want to draw it like I did, if you don't have a printer, and your picture is going to go in the bubble at the top, and then the date, and then you're going to say dear, and whoever you said is the who for your story, okay? And then we're going to write them a letter, and we want to make sure that we are doing all of these things on our checklist that says we can be really convincing. All right, so I'm going to give you guys a timer to do for 10 minutes. So if you need to print out the letter paper or if you need to draw the letter paper, do that now before you start the timer. And you can look at the checklist while you're writing too. All right, so today we want to be working on thinking of a problem in the world, thinking of a few reasons, maybe 4, why it's a problem. Then we want to think, who should I tell this to? Who could make a change so that this is not a problem anymore? Then I want to write them a letter. I need to write them a letter. Okay? All right. Have a great time writing. I can't wait to read it. Bye.